Pursuing a PhD is a huge decision, and actually executing and finishing it is a huge accomplishment. You sacrifice and suffer so much during the process that it is almost seems no celebration is big enough for such an accomplishment. So, in this post, I'm going to share 5 things that I did to cultivate joy after finishing my PhD. My hope is that these 5 tips help any other newly minted PhD or recent graduate who is trying to find themselves after they finish their doctorate, to find some ways that they can celebrate themselves and bring themselves joy after the process. Number one, so I moved to my dream city. I grew up in an all white small town for most of my adolescence. And then I went on to go to several college towns, small white college towns, where I didn't fully feel like I was affirmed in who I was, or that I could find the things I need, like hair products or hairstylists and just cultural things that I really needed. And a lot of times we put up with that and we don't realize how much of a toll it takes long term. So one of the things I did was I moved to Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta had been on my list of places to live for several years, and it just happened to align. I essentially manifested my ability to move to Atlanta, so I got a job in Atlanta, and I was able to put everything else in place to move to Atlanta. And since being in Atlanta, I've been so much more happy. I felt so much more whole. I felt so much more like myself. So if you have that ability, or if that's something that's super important to you, consider mapping out a dream city, executing a plan to get there, and going to your dream city to find your happiness now that you're done with your doctorate and you're no longer location bound. Next, I marked my new beginning with a big purchase. So for me, I have always lived in apartments. I've always lived in a way that was very nomadic, where I was able to pack up my things and leave. And so I was never able to have a dog, but I've always wanted a dog my entire life. So the big purchase that I made was going to a reputable breeder and getting my dream dog. And, literally the day after I moved to Atlanta, the next day I went and got my dream dog. Now, I can't say, as I think about it, whether a dog is really a gift. Now in hindsight, I'm seeing the gift in it. But when you're first getting a dog, I got an 8-week puppy a few weeks after graduating. And so, as much as she brought me joy, it also was a very difficult transition. But I say all this to say, consider marking your new beginning with a big purchase. It doesn't have to be a dog or a puppy, that if that's not what you want, but it could be a tattoo. It could be a trip to somewhere you've always wanted to go, but just make it something that's something you wouldn't ordinarily buy yourself and something no one else would buy you. You deserve to treat yourself after such a big accomplishment. So, around here at the People's Editor, we support therapy. We know the power of therapy. We've seen the transformation of therapy. So, the third point here is that I personally worked more consistently with a therapist. The truth is that being in a PhD program for a lot of people depends on different factors, but for many Black people, being in a PhD program is traumatic. And in a lot of ways, it's traumatic in and of itself, because it does take you away from your core identity for a period of time, however long that you were in that particular process. And then it's like, once you're done, you are able to then reconnect with who you are. But working with a therapist is very helpful for processing the trauma that you've experienced. Even if you don't feel like it, or you feel disconnected from it initially, know that more than likely you have experienced some type of trauma of just navigating systems that weren't set up for you to navigate, or just different things. Just think about all of the things you experience, and you can work with your therapist to process those things, make meaning of those things, heal from them, and move to your next thing. So I recommend working with a therapist to process your trauma from your doctoral program, or the place that you lived while you were pursuing your doctorate, or just some of the different encounters you had as a PhD student, or even, just the processing how you survived on such a small stipend if you were a research assistant or something like that. So we recommend working with a therapist as a part of your self-care plan. It's not anything to be ashamed of. It's a good thing. And you will see the power of just having someone to listen to you and process with you. And that is actually their job. You're paying them to spend time with you and to help you process and to help you heal. You can't do everything yourself. I also prioritized ease as a part of my celebrating myself for completing my PhD. So for several years, ease and joy and happiness have been the most important things to me. But now that I'm done with my PhD and I can actually really delve down into what it is that I truly enjoy without thinking about whether or not it's going to be politically correct or whether or not it's going to make someone else happy, by really thinking about what it is that I like, what it is that I want to do. And now that I feel like I have made this accomplishment that I have put my life on pause for so long for, figuring out what it is that brings me ease and happiness. So finding ways to go to vacation or spend time with people you love, things of that nature. I definitely recommend, as a part of your celebrating yourself and your radical self-care, prioritizing ease, going away from worrying about status and worrying about what people think or what someone might say or whether or not someone might misinterpret what you're doing, and do the things that bring you joy. You deserve it. Last, I reconnected with my core self. So being in a PhD program, often you go in, especially as a Black person and a Black person who wants to love on and create opportunity for other Black people, you go into it with one vision for what your purpose is and what you want to fulfill with your degree. Oftentimes we're overexposed to the values of the academy, which don't align with the things that we went there to do. So we may go in thinking, yeah, I know most people who get a PhD in higher education become a professor at a research institution, but most research institutions aren't really set up for us to thrive at. So maybe you went into your program wanting to be an HBCU professor or wanting to work for yourself or wanting to do something very dynamic, but over the time that you were in your program, you're overexposed to the expectations and the values of your institution, which essentially it aligns with white supremacist ideals that you should work at these particular institutions or you should care about these particular causes, and they kind of derail you from your original purpose when you enrolled in your PhD program. That's why it's so important to reconnect with your community and reconnect with your core self and remember who you are, who you're there for, and what it is that you want to do. Get rid of the ideals that you encompass long enough to get through your PhD program, because that's survival. We had to do that. But now you can really think about what it is that you want to do and what it is that you want to do for your community and who you are in that way. And connect with family, spend time with family and friends. I'm sure there are lots of time that has been lost just of you being in grad school and having to prioritize your work in order to get it completed. Completing a doctorate as a Black academic is an accomplishment worthy of much praise and celebration. The 5 tips that I shared were the actions that I took to celebrate myself after completing my PhD. I hope that these tips kind of give you some ideas for things that you can do for yourself. You don't have to do what I did, but I hope that you do take some action and really take the time to celebrate yourself and really feel what it is that you have accomplished and what you can do with it and how you can create a more happy life for yourself. So I hope you like these tips. If you like the tips, or if you like what you heard here, or just this discussion, feel free to engage in the comments. I would love to hear some of your thoughts and feelings about things. And if you like the video, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Also, visit us on our website, thepeopleseditor.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at thepeopleseditor_, and then you can also follow us on Twitter at peoples_editor. We are also on Facebook at The People's Editor. Please contact us. We would love to engage with you.